Hello, everybody. Welcome to A Little Adventure Crime. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're having a great day, evening. Maybe it's morning. Maybe it's night. You just never know. Nolan Wells' autopsy, which it was the private autopsy, the secondary autopsy, um, that's been released, as you know. Most likely, you know. And there's some questions I have, but there's also okay, so Nancy Grace has a photograph of Nolan Wells's body at the time it was found. And she gives her statement to what she is seeing. And I'm trying to understand what she's saying versus the time that he would have been deceased. It's like something tells me there's something more to this. Was Nolan even in the water when he passed away? He wasn't found in the water. He was found on land. There's so much to talk about, and I know you want to get your feelings out here and have a discussion, so I'm live. And this is really hard because there's so much to this. We're finding out that the sea boat never went out and told them that they got assistance from somewhere else, and the sea boat got canceled. This case has me going, what in the world really happened to this boy? Because Nolan is only 18. He's still very young. He had his whole life in front of him. And the first autopsy, that's not even being released. And the questions I have are like, and I've never seen it take so long for an autopsy to come out. Parts of the body are being retained in the first autopsy, which is stunting or withholding the information for the secondary autopsy, the private one. There's a lot. There's a lot. Hey, Brandy Martin. Good to see you. Nina, good to see you. Jenny Bill in the house. Miss Jennifer Swain, good to see you. Smudger's here. A lot of people are here. Charlie B's here. Rita Sign, good to see you. Excuse me. Okay, I just realized I don't have chat up on the other screens, so I've got to get it up on the screen. There we go. All right. So Nancy Grace, she looks at I've got all this. She's looking at a picture of Nolan Wells just as he was found. She's looking at the picture. We don't get to see it. Thank God she didn't put it out there. But she's looking at it, and listen to what she has to say. She's going to tell you that it looks like he's sleeping. And I'm like, there should be so many changes in the body after 48 hours in the water. Skin slippage, even rigor mortis should have set in. The positioning of the body sounds strange to me, as if he's laying in that position. But if he passed away in the water, how would he get in that position? I'm confused. I'm confused. Hey, Danny, you're here but not? Okay. Gail says, I saw in a video that Nolan alleged friends beat him up. Well, we have a lot of AI fake video out there too, so I'm just saying. And some people are just, I'll just be honest. There's some channels that just make the shit up and say it, but it doesn't make it true. Nope, too long and no word. It's weird. Covered a lot of cases, lots and lots of cases. Never had it like this. So it just got me a little bit puzzled on that. But I want you to listen to what Nancy Grace says so that you know it's not me. I'm not the one making it up, right? So let's get the receipts on the table.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No further
But I know how to use
questions.
Snapchat.
Thank you. Brian Trasher, let me talk about something that you do know about, which includes boat GPS. What exactly, last time for tonight, What exactly was seen when Nolan's body was found? Every detail.
Okay, so the body was right at the shoreline, right where the water meets the sand. It was laying face down.
He was on shore, on land, right where the water meets the sand. So Nolan wasn't found where water's lapping up against him. He wasn't found somewhere out in the water. He was found on land. That doesn't mean he wasn't in water and didn't get washed up. It could have happened. But we don't have anything in the secondary private autopsy that allows us to know if there was water in the lungs. That is something that would have only been able to be discovered in the very first autopsy, the preliminary autopsy. And we have no way to know that. But wouldn't the body have been bloated? You guys help me out. This is water. This is warm water. He looks like he's sleeping. Something feels off with that. Greatasine believes if he had drowned, then at the very least his face would be swollen, which we don't know because his face is never seen by her. I know that from experience we had someone in the family who drowned. Well, this is something, you know, in the in the in the secondary autopsy, the throat was retained by the first autopsy and therefore not available for the second autopsy. And in the second autopsy, in the family private autopsy, the redness in the back of the soft tissue in the back of the head. So you're looking at the throat and the back. All right, so one might say, well, maybe there was a ligature used, which is horrific. But if a ligature had been used, from my understanding, remember, I ain't no doctor and I ain't giving no medical advice. I'm not giving a professional opinion. Just from my own research, I believe that there would have been extreme hemorrhaging in the eyes from all the drownings where there was, or not drownings, but strangulation or something along that line, whether it be by a rope, like in the Sandra Birchmore case, or just the person was manually strangled, like Gabby Petito, the eyeballs hemorrhaged. And so I was curious. I was waiting to hear more about the details because I'm like, okay, if his eyes hemorrhaged really bad, and but that can happen when you choke too. But also the throat being missing and the back area, I would have thought, oh my gosh, what about that? Whatever it's called, I don't know what kind of bone that is, but it's a bone in here that if it breaks, from what I understand, you didn't do it yourself. So in the Sandra Birchmore case, they exhumed her body and they found that that bone inside there, whatever it's very specific. If that is broken, then it suggests somebody else did it. Well, we don't know that either because the whole throat is missing. Not missing, but being withheld because it's already being looked at. So then you listen to the medical examiner that's doing the second autopsy with all the credentials, and he's saying he would also have held the throat back in the case that he wanted to look into possible damage to the throat by other means, such as choking, such, you know what I'm saying. So this to me, it just opened up a whole can of worms with no more answers and in fact more questions. So JG George, where'd you go? put I put it on the board and then it jumped out of my way, so I'm gonna grab it again. Okay, we did that. JG George, did you retract yours? Oh, being that the ME kept Nolan's lungs and neck bones, and the independent examiner never had access to it, it seems like someone is hiding something, in your opinion. Sorry about my throat today. Hold on. Sounds like a frog in my throat. I said the other day I felt he never drowned. Well, I just find it strange that there doesn't appear to be what I would expect. Like, the body's not bloated, the body's not showing it looks like he's sleeping. That's wild to me. That's where I'm like, I don't get this. I don't get this part.
And like I said earlier, the swim trunks that were described and photographed, that he was photographed in the day he died, or the day he presumably died, where he was still wearing, did not appear to be wearing shoes or a shirt. And yeah, face down, and there were law enforcement kind of standing all around him, just like whatever they were doing, their jobs, I'm sure. But that is what I saw from the air.
I'm looking at it. Let's see, his face down. His left foot is on top of what looks to be some kelp that has washed ashore. He looks almost as if he's sleeping.
Did you hear Nancy Grace? She said, because this is how she's holding her hand. She said, it looks like he's almost sleeping, like a belly sleep, where you're on your stomach, your head is turned, your one leg is bent, one leg is straight. And I'm thinking, wouldn't rigor mortis have set in, and therefore he wouldn't be in that position? I don't know. I feel like, there's something off with this whole thing, that it's like he wasn't there the day before. Well, maybe the gases hadn't come up, is what I thought. I'm like, okay, so even though they searched that area and they didn't find him, it can take 2 to 4 days before gases build up and the body pops up to the surface. But then you're listening to Nancy Grace, and she's saying he ain't bloated in the fact that she's saying he looks sleeping. It just looks like he's sleeping. So then I'm thinking, what produced his body out of the water if he was in the water, if he doesn't have gases and he wasn't there the day before? And then if he just looks like he's sleeping, why did they need to do dental records when his mother was on site where the body was located and she was grieving? And help me make sense of this. I'm having a hard time making sense of this. Snow Feathers 96, hello, lovely. You said I would be interested to know if there was sand in his lungs or respiratory passage. In my opinion, he was knocked unconscious, could not regain consciousness, and was smothered. He was abandoned, in my opinion. Okay, also, we listened to the interview over there on Officer Tatum's channel of the boy. He says in this statement, and I got it, that someone has reported seeing Nolan as late as 6 or 6:30 p.m. on July 4th. What? Hear me out. Hear this out. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Let's stay on the body.
He is face down. He's wearing, at first it appeared to be a shirt. He's not wearing a. Looking at it, his face down. His left foot is on top of what looks to be some kelp that has washed ashore. He looks almost as if he's sleeping. He is face down. He's wearing, at first it appeared to be a shirt. He's not wearing a shirt upon zooming in on it. He's barefoot. I don't see anything on his wrists or arms, such as, a watch. I don't see that. It looks to me like he's sleeping on his stomach with his right leg a little bent outward and his left leg outward as well, like he's asleep on a mattress. His left arm is out and down, like he's a stomach sleeper, and it looks to me like his head is turned to one way into the sand. Now, given that position, I see no way that blood could have pooled in the back of his neck. He is absolutely face down. But that is another argument for Dr. Kendall Crowns and myself for another night.
He did not appear to be bloated. Like Jay George is saying, salt water would have bloated him and his hands and feet would have been pruned and white. Agreed. And rigor mortis would have set in. Susan Robinson says, me too, having a hard time understanding all what has been presented thus far. Stacy Turner, the chief medical examiner in Mississippi, needs to be thoroughly investigated, according to Victor. Well, thank you for sharing your opinion. You'd like to know his alcohol content, says Jennifer. Looks like he was placed that way. It does sound like it's the way you would place somebody. Oh, let's make him look like this. Something's weird. Did he have water in his lungs? That's what I wanted to know the most. And his lungs, you can't tell on the second, allegedly you can't tell. I guess the water, evaporates? Maybe. Several specific cases have raised public concern, according to Victor. For instance, the ruling in the case of Trey Reed on the Delta State University campus has been contested following reports of injuries that some suggest are inconsistent with the initial finding. Interesting. So, I do not personally care for this gentleman, but he's doing the interviews with the boys. He did a short, and it said on it, she lied, and then it played Nolan Wells' mama, and for about 30 seconds. And all it was her expressing how she was handling grief. There was nothing on there that she could lie about because it was her own emotion. And I was like, man, I don't care for that. Like, why are you attacking the mother, the grieving mother? Especially saying she lied with the question mark and then putting her statement about how everything just felt out of sorts. I'm like, what? And after that, I was like, I don't care for this. However, he does state this. Now, I'm using this to act of information, right? And Fair Use Act. So don't hit me.
On the boat, man. Get on the boat. Get on the freaking boat. And he decided, because he's an adult, that he was going to stay behind. And all the boys that they've been accusing, and they saying it had something to do with his death, they were all gone at 4:30. They were all gone. And they told Nolan to get on the boat. He didn't. And then there was a report of somebody seeing Nolan around 6:30-ish. And so for them to come out.
What?
And they told Nolan to get on the boat. He didn't. And then there was a report of somebody seeing Nolan around 6:30-ish. And so for them.
There was a report, just a random report. They saw Nolan around 6:30-ish, according to Officer Tatum. So, Officer Tatum, can you please express where you got that information from and who is this person that saw Nolan Wells at 6 or 6:30? Because even his family and the family's lawyers and the rest of us, I have not heard that from another soul, and I've watched a lot of coverage. So, Officer Tatum, you need to give us more of how you know this information and who this person is that saw Nolan at 6 or 6:30. And how would you personally be able to vouch for children that you don't know? I say children, 18, 19, whatever they are, that you've only met one, allegedly, and even if you've met them all, how can you vouch that they all left? Do you have some inside knowledge Did you go through their phones? Are you more of an investigator than the investigators? Because to stand there and say 4:30 they all left as if it's fact, you don't know that. You don't know if part of them left on this boat and this boat left later. Why is it that only one boat seems to be forensically investigated? Nobody has said that, well, Katie may have hinted. She said the girl that Nolan was allegedly talking to suggested that she thought Nolan was going to go back with the guys. They were urging him to get on the boat. But really, Nolan could have left on a different boat. So have all the boats, including Katie's family that she left on, including there were 3 boats, they said, have all of the boats been forensically checked? And I heard a rumor, spaghetti at the wall, a rumor that the family of the boat that the boys were on, that Nolan rode out on, denied the dogs being used on the boat, the scent dog or cadaver dog, don't know which. So there's some hanky-panky going on here. I don't understand it. J.G. George says it was said he didn't drink. He drank. He had a drink in his hand in the picture. He had allegedly, he had an alcoholic drink in his hand in the photograph. So that, to me, would be weird for someone to hold an alcoholic drink just for a picture. And man, I don't drink, take this. So if Nolan has a drink in his hand, it would make you think that he had drank. So you go on to say if he had drowned, there wouldn't have to be water there, but could be salt for sure, possible sand, microalgae. Good point. What about the bacteria from ocean water being in his lungs, the Gulf water in the, not just in the lungs, but in the tissue of the lungs? Seems like that would be something. I mean, I'm not a pathologist and I don't do autopsies, but I mean, being that the Mississippi coroner allegedly just has to have a high school diploma to have that position, that's quite concerning. I mean, what, you flip burgers in the day and then you're the coroner at night that decides manner and mode of death or even cause of death? J.G. George says that OFC needs to get an official statement. In your opinion, it's just a BS distraction from the truth. That's right. Dentist Stalin is saying, where's the Mississippi autopsy? The preliminary, the first one. Susan Robinson, I heard the same, that someone on the boat refused to have their boat searched, allegedly. That's a big deal to me. But let's get back to Officer Tatum. That's quite a big, as Nancy Grace would say, bombshell that allegedly we have someone that claims to have seen Nolan as late as 6 or 6:30. Who is that? Let's listen to him one more time. It comes right out of his own mouth.
And they told Nolan to get on the boat, he didn't. And then there was a report of somebody seeing Nolan around 6:30-ish. And so for them to come out.
How do y'all feel about that? Yeah, Jennyville, let me just look it up and see what happens if we Google it. Requirements to be a Mississippi MISSIPPI corner. So they have to be 21 years of age. Shall I show you this? Let's look this up together. This is a good find. So I just typed, what are the requirements to be a Mississippi corner. Let's get it over here. I got to make it smaller to fit, so give me a minute. Okay. Hold the phone, y'all. I know I got a mess going on. I'm trying to grab the website. It's not easy doing this, y'all. Okay, let's make it a lot bigger so we can read it. All right. To be a coroner in Mississippi, candidates must meet basic constitutional age and residency rules when at large election and complete a mandatory state forensic training. And it's a 4-year elected term. So it's more about voting. So the education that is required is right here. The education is must possess a high school diploma or its equivalent. That's the education required. Told y'all. All right, training and certification required. Death investigation school. Before taking the oath of office, elected candidates must meet and successfully pass all exams at the Mississippi Crime Laboratory and State Medical Examiners Death Investigation Training School. Okay. Let's go like this. I want to know how long is it? 40 hours for 5 days. 5 days. You go to a 5-day course. Okay, you go to a 5-day, so you get your high school diploma. You get voted into office, and then you must complete a 40-hour basic training program every 2 years. And then you can determine the means of death and the cause of death for major cases, right? Are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. Proved it for you. Must possess the high school diploma, or you could even have a GED, maybe, because, that's the equivalent of a high school diploma. Carla says, that's ridiculous. Jennyville says, oh my God, Missouri is the same way. Danny says, what, you're kidding me? JG George says, Mickey Mouse ME certificate. Nikki says, this case is getting more crazy. Susan said, if I had nothing to hide, I'd do whatever necessary to clear myself. Or Rizzle. Sash says, what about the fact that the tow company has come out and said that the tow was canceled allegedly, right? JG George said that is absurd. A forensic pathologist should be the only person doing the autopsy. Wowzer, says Danny. What? That's outrageous, says Sash. Yeah, I said. What are you doing? Working at McDonald's off your GED? No offense to those that get their GED. I am absolutely proud of you. I'm very proud of you. I'm just saying, to have such an important position that you literally hold people's justice in your own hands like God. And all you need is a GED or a high school diploma and a bunch of friends that'll vote you in a little hometown, and now you're the coroner? Are you kidding me? Oh, Jennifer Swain says, in my opinion, Mississippi has a terrible track record being truthful, especially with race issues. Unreal says, Jennyville, I had no idea that some states' requirements are so low. I did, because I've run into it in cases time and time again. And I'm always in these cases where we can't figure out what happened. I always find out that we've got some rinky-dinky little elected official that's performing the, that's the corner that's got to sign off on everything. And I'm always like, what are you kidding me? So I showed you that Officer Tatum, which to me, I just don't care for the man, but go hit up his channel if you want to. He says right here that there is a report that someone is reporting saying that they saw Nolan Wells as late as 6 or 6:30. I would like him to put it up. Show it. Show it. Don't just say shit like that. That would be, every one of us would be like, boom, boom, boom. Oh my God, Nolan Wells spotted at 6 or 6:30 p.m. by so-and-so. Where is that? But adding that into the mix without backing it up makes me think that it's not true. Could be, but it makes me feel that it's probably not true. Nikki says, wow, it's crazy, Jenny. In England, consult. Oh, wow, I don't even know if I can say all this. Histopathologists, specialist forensic pathologists, and trained medical practitioners working under their supervision are the ones that can do the autopsy. Yeah. Sash says, I don't care for Tatum. Susan Robinson, well, has that person provided this info to the proper authorities? Where do you get that info from? I don't believe it either. Angie says, I don't believe it. I don't either. I don't either. Okay, let's listen to what this boy has to say. I just grabbed a quick piece of it. But this friend, listen to this.
Nolan behind. I've seen reports of people saying that you just left him. I see reports of people saying that you asked him to get on the boat. You told him to get on the boat, he didn't. What's the truth in that?
Well, Wyatt was having boat issues and the bilge wouldn't pump. So the bilge is basically a pump that releases water from your boat when water comes in. So I opened the back hatch and there's water up to the batteries. And that is obviously not good. There's water almost coming over the transom, which is where your motors sit and which is by the stern, like in the back part of the boat. So obviously we were in an emergency. The boat, we're trying to save the boat. It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. And the girl is a witness to that too.
Yeah.
Nolan's decided to stay on the island with the girl, and the girl is witness to that too. That's not what the girl said, though. See, there's the problem. Which one of them is lying? You can't have it both ways. The girl is saying, he wasn't coming with me. You guys were saying, come on, Nolan, get on the boat, come on the boat. And I left without Nolan. I assumed he got on the boat with you. So she's not giving the same witness account. She's giving the opposite. She's saying Nolan was going with you guys. So this kid is making a statement. He's then incorporating that this girl is the witness that he has backed up by. She's saying it too. No, she's not. From everything I understand, she's saying, no. He didn't come with us. He went with you. You feel me? It's just weird. It's just weird.
I'm glad you cleared that up because I think it's important for people to have the context of like what it was on that day, what happened, what didn't happen. And the beauty of all of this is that you guys have evidence to prove that you asked Nolan to come on and different things like that. So, but anyway, man, I appreciate you,
yes, sir.
Giving me a rundown of kind of what it was like on that day.
Right, Susan? She's not corroborating allegedly what he's saying. Lorena says, where is her interview? And she said he was with her and she saw him last. No. Let me show you. Let me go over here. Let me look it up for us. Katie has stated repeatedly that Nolan took off to leave with his friends on the boat. She never saw him get on the boat. His friend says that he stayed behind to hang out with Katie. Maybe Nolan got lost during the small gap in time. Otherwise, the timeline does not fit. I just want to hold that child's mother and take her sorrows away. It is heartbreaking to watch. Have any of these young adults been questioned by police? Do we know? I would love for a polygraphs to be given. Wouldn't that be amazing? Then someone is putting false information out there, Lorena. That's why I said, since when do we have a witness of Nolan on Horn Island between 6 and 6:30? According to Officer Tatum, his words, there is a report that he's referring to. Ooh, do they have proof of that? I'm finding that hard to even, I don't understand that. Sash says, Tatum just said you guys have evidence that you told Nolan to get on the boat. What evidence? Right. That's true. He did say that. He's like, you have evidence that you were telling Nolan to get on the boat. That's the only thing that the girl actually is backing up. She did say she heard his friends saying, come on, get on the boat. Come on, Nolan, get on the boat. Come on, get on the boat. So, also, that whole time out, like we find out that the boat, even though it was having problems, they canceled the tow. They canceled the tow. So what is this judge talking about how the boat had to be towed? Who towed the boat if they canceled the tow? And the tow company saying, we didn't do it. Is that just an alibi? Why were they going so slow when they left the island? And then, okay, let's say that the village pump did quit working. They were taking on water. It was up to the batteries, blah, 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 blah. And then they got it fixed, okay? It still doesn't explain why the Coast Guard would have been alerted by one of the friends' mothers that night. I don't get that. How did they go from thinking that Nolan didn't come back with us, but he was hanging out with that girl and he just met her, and Nolan, even though everybody in Nolan's life is like, he would never do this, the friends are like, oh yeah, he would, and he did, and he stayed with her. So at what point did they all of a sudden, while watching TV at their house, go, we should just call him in missing. We should just call it in missing, saying we can't find him. Let's call the Coast Guard. Something's disconnected in this case, and it's very frustrating. Why is the young man being so forthcoming with the officer? I don't think he's really an officer, by the way. He maybe is, but I'm sure if he's an officer in my mind, he's probably a mall cop. You know what I'm saying? Allegedly, in the beginning, it was said several said they didn't remember anything, and they all lawyered up right away. Angie says, I'm wondering if Nolan actually went to Horn Island. I hope these pictures are time-stamped. I just have this feeling that Nolan's body was placed in that location. Just a feeling, in my opinion, allegedly. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Tatum's not showing receipts, is he? Can we call him Tatum instead of officer? Because I don't know what he's an officer of. YouTube? Okay, but wasn't there another company that did the tow, so they canceled the other one? It just says that they said they had assistance. They didn't need the assistance. That they had other assistants. Who knows? Not one boat. There are pictures of 3 boats they all got on. And yet we hear about one boat. One boat. When I say that, I'm talking about forensically checked. What about the other boats? if there is there a timestamp on the video showing Nolan getting on the boat to go to Horn Island? Remember, Warren said Nolan never went with him in the morning to McDonald's. That's a good question. I heard he came back to shore and he was killed, and then he was taken back out to the water and dumped. In your opinion, Ruffer? He's a retired police officer. Aren't they all? And so young. Yeah, I bet we could do a little checking on to that. Susan Robinson, in the age we live, everything is always recorded. I feel there's a recording floating around with everything that was going on involving Nolan. At least Nolan. I would love to see it. Lorena says there is a picture of a boy on a boat. He kept playing the interview, and that was at 6:30. There is no confirmation. Okay, no. The guy that people think is Nolan, that is wearing the shorts that match his description, bending over, getting something out of the cooler, the metadata shows that at 2:23. 2:23 p.m. 2:23 p.m. That's the metadata. So that's not it. So who's the report? Nolan, according to his supposed best friend Warren Hudson, says he was drinking. In Mississippi, you can drink beer or light wine at age 22 to 18 to 25% under adult supervision. Let me see that. Mississippi. I heard it had to be 18, but legal drinking 21. However, here we go. Individuals 18 to 20 are allowed to legally permitted to possess and consume beer or light wine. She's right, 5% alcohol by weight or less if they are with their parents or legal guardian, or while serving in the U.S. Armed Military Forces on military property. However, where are these boys' parents? Where's their legal guardian? I don't think so. I don't think they're there. Tatum was a police officer in Tucson, Arizona. Lord help me. That explains it all right there. Stephanie, hello, love. How are you? Everybody as well. Well, thank you, Lily. Yeah. That's scary as hell. Yeah, I don't think so either, John. I can't think that Nolan just disappeared, right? Linda says all coroners should have to have a medical degree and a license. 100% agree. Truly. Jennyville says, yes, that's the one I watch, but I'm easily distracted at times. Note about Brittany says legal guardian means they would have liability for him, and that would lead to them potentially being charged with manslaughter. Lorena says we shouldn't attack other creators. At least you take the time to go to the island and learn it. I'm not attacking him. I can say I don't like someone, and don't tell me what to do. I don't appreciate that. I have my own opinion here. I don't like what he did to the mother, and I disapprove of it. Now, I will say this. Getting that interview didn't do crap for me because he spilled out a bunch of word salad. Well, and I don't know why they're saying these boys all did something when at 6 or 6:30 there's a report that Nolan was seen. Prove it. Provide a receipt if you're going to say stuff like that. Just saying it like that, all you're doing is muddying the water with hearsay, rumor, and not calling it a rumor, stating it as a fact. If I was Nolan's parents, I'll be looking close at what he's saying because that's just all BS unless he's got some receipts. John Bono says, and I finally figured out why they never mentioned a crack hull because they forgot to put the drain plugs in when they left the dock. That could be. That could be. Hey, Tina. How you doing? Angie says, does anyone know the story of Emmett Till? Horrific. Allegedly on this channel. Right. In my opinion, or allegedly. I'm just saying, he's not my favorite guy after what I listened to him talk about the mother, where he's like, is she lying? And then it was just a clip of the mother expressing her grief over losing her son. And I'm like, what kind of sick clickbait is this shit? And that was my introduction to Officer Tatum. So forgive me if I'm not all like, oh, he's so wonderful. What does he mean? Is she lying? The mother didn't even talk about the case. All it is a 30-second clip of the mother expressing her own grief. And I'm like, that's so not for me. But hey, you may feel completely different. Okay. I'm not telling you how to feel. There is a lot of clickbait out there. There truly is. Rough and Rougher says, here's another theory I heard. Nolan and the judge were intimate. Okay, I'm not even going to touch that. I'm not going to touch any rumor about Nolan being intimate with the judge. I'm not. Okay, let's not muddy the waters. Let's keep it clean. And right now, we've got a lot of what's going on. If Nancy Grace is looking at a photograph of Nolan's body, and she's saying it appears he's just sleeping, then why, after 2 days, allegedly, because he wasn't there the day before, so he would have had to be out in the water. Feel me? Like they went there. He wasn't laying there. They searched that area. No Nolan. The only place he can be at this point, in theory, if we're going to go with no foul play, is the water. And he hadn't washed up yet. That's the only way he's not there, is if the boy's back in the water. Yet, we got no bloating. We got no discoloration. We got him, no rigor mortis. He just looks like he's sleeping, like he's been preserved. I'm like, what? I don't get this. Jennyville says that was a bad clip. In my opinion, a longer interview that still didn't show how she lied, right? Well, Nolan's friends did not kill him. And the crotcheter? Well, and the crotcheter, when you show us how you were there and you know that, fine, show your receipts. Until then, you don't know crap. I think Tristan Shepard and Katie are right in the middle of this crap. There was an argument that escalated into manslaughter in Shannon's opinion. Rough and Rougher says supposedly the judge and Nolan's mother went to school together. Yep. And so they've known each other a long time. True. Susan says the sleuths on social media are unmatched with necessary information. I have no doubt we could solve this before law enforcement does. I think you'd be right on that. In the water or somebody's boat. Well, if we're going with no foul play, we're just saying, let's just throw caution to the wind for a minute and speculate that Nolan just drowned. Then why would his body not be there with bloating and signs of waterlogged, skin slippage, discoloration, rigor mortis? If he was out at sea the entire time, his body should show that he was out to sea. I mean, we're not talking about just an hour or two he drowned and then washed up that I know of. And even if that's true, even if he drowned that evening and washed up, he would have been found the very next day. So we have the people go there and search. No Nolan. He's not on land. He's nowhere right there. So how does he show up the next day and he doesn't have signs that he's been floating in the water or even sunk in the water for the last 48 hours? It's almost like illogical. Like I'm like, nano, I can't buy this. This doesn't sound like logic to me. It just doesn't make sense. Right. Enki says his body would have been bloated. Yeah. And the crotcheter, Lord, what a name. That's so bizarre. Where's the proof? I'm pretty sure you're a troll, but whatever. Stephanie says he is lying so bad I can see it even when the other video he stutters too. You're talking about that kid being interviewed by Tatum. John, so they saved some shipping on that body by not including vital body parts to determine time and cause of death. I don't know what that means, lovely. Everybody began leaving after the fight. Javon said the fight was between 3:40 and 4:30. I believe Nolan was hit in the back of the head. Just your opinion. Thank you for sharing. John says someone in the Cajun Navy said they were surprised that his body was in the same place as the Anchorage. Yep. I saw that. I heard it with my own eyes and ears. I agree with you, John. I saw that. He was just shocked that the body ended up exactly the same location as the boat had left. And they said, Nolan, that's the last place we saw Nolan. We left on a boat at 4:30. And then they go there the next day, no body. The next day, they find the body in that same spot. So, all right, my lovely. That's what I have for you today. I'm just very, very frustrated in the Nolan Wells case. I'm not understanding when Nancy Grace is saying, and I trust what she's seeing, and I trust what she's saying about Nolan Wells' body. It appears he's sleeping. After 2 days in the water, it just appears he's sleeping. I'd be asking a lot more questions if it were me. I wouldn't buy any of this crap. There's just some things not checking out. Why is the throat not there? Does that mean that they actually suspect that there was some damage done to his throat? And so they had to send it off to check? And why aren't we hearing about microbia being in the tissue of the lung from the preliminary, from the secondary autopsy? Wouldn't there be bacteria that formed from ocean water that's still in the lungs if he had a lung full of water? Wouldn't there be bulging of the eyeballs if, like, he had been choked? See? So it's almost as if it leads me to suspect that it's possible that Nolan actually may have suffered a broken neck. Because then that would mean the eyeballs wouldn't necessarily hemorrhage. There would be no water in the lungs. If he hit his head on the back, is it possible that it broke his neck? I don't know. We still have a long way to go in this case. And though I'm frustrated, I'm not giving up to get the truth for Nolan Wells and to stay on this case with you so that we can understand more. But when you have somebody out here called Tatum saying that he knows of a report of someone that saw Nolan at 6 or 6:30, we want to see the receipt. That's the way it works. All right, I love you guys to the moon and back. If you're continuing on with me, we're going to find out a lot more as we go together. I'll see you in just a moment.
From the dust I was born, to the dirt I shall return. When my eyes are closed, in the shadows, my enemies will think they won, but I'm here to stay. Destiny will overcome, no, I'm afraid. Like a phoenix in the night, my soul from the dark. I'm